This is the new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, and honestly, the moment you pick it up, you can tell that this thing is a sleeker, neater, better filtered phone than last year's. Exercise, ST. But it's only after spending a few hours getting deeper that I've started to realize this thing is next generation in a way that we've not really ever seen before. The entire way the company is even thinking about the smartphone is changing with the S25. So these are the 6 key things that you need to know, starting with the DSi, which is a pretty substantial upgrade. The S25 Ultra is 15G lighter than the S24 Ultra. It's enough to notice, for sure. It's 0.4 mm thinner, making this the thinnest Ultra phone that Samsung has ever made. It's got a stronger titanium body thanks to a new, more compacted molecular structure, and 29% tougher Gorilla Glass armor too on the front, which is a pretty dicey one to test. But Samsung is saying that when they first introduced Gorilla Glass armor last year, they noticed immediately that when those new phones were coming in for repair, there was 60% less damage on average on the screens of those phones. So a further 29% improvement on that? Well, it's not going to hurt. Now, to be really honest, I think the colors are a complete miss. They're all boring. They tried to make them interesting with the names, like the hero color is called titanium silver blue, and this one is titanium white silver. Let's call a spade a spade. It's gray. Plus, they've colored the back panels but not the sides, which to me just makes these all look like those badly matched refurbished car doors. Next, software. So last year with the S24 Ultra, one of the most impressive things about this phone was not actually the hardware, but more just how much Samsung had upgraded their One UI Android skin. It felt like a complete modernization. It was prettier, faster, and more customizable. Somehow, I feel like they've made another similarly massive jump again this year. The S25 ships with Samsung's latest One UI 7, and I freaking love it. It feels like this company has finally understood that we don't want our phones to look corporate. We want them to look bright and fun. We want them to be intuitive, and most of all, we want them to look as naturally clean as possible. And they've delivered. The new software feels more visually consistent while being functionally even more customizable. You can now do what feels like anything you want with your widgets. Your quick settings now look more organized and again have practically unlimited rearrangeability. And it is so fast. I never really felt like speed was an issue last generation, but this is in a new league altogether. I think it's fair to say that with last year's phones, Samsung came in and set the benchmark for smartphone AI. The AI suite on this phone, while still in the early days, stayed ahead of everything else released in 2024. Seeing what the S25s are able to do, I'd say there's a not insignificant chance that trend continues. I don't think it's all great, but there is so much interesting stuff here. Live Translate. The second subcategory of AI upgrades is Live Translate. Now this is actually something that was added last year on the S24, but it's getting a lot more impressive. Before, it was basically real-time translation during calls, but now you can use it across almost any app, like WhatsApp, Instagram DMs, or even live video chats. The way this works is kind of insane. If you receive a message in a different language, Samsung's AI translates it and overlays the translation directly on top of the original text so seamlessly that it looks like that's how it was originally sent. And when you reply, it translates your message before sending it so that it appears in the recipient's language. It's incredibly useful. But I think the biggest game changer is in live video calls. Imagine having a real-time conversation with someone who speaks a completely different language, and both of you see live captions of each other's words in your own language. It's like having your own personal interpreter built into the phone. Now, of course, this relies on Samsung's AI being accurate, and in my early testing, it's not perfect. But even if it's 80% reliable, that still makes cross-angle communication easier than ever before. Generative editing. The third and final AI feature that Samsung is hyping up is generative editing. If you've seen AI image editing before, you'll get the idea. Basically, you can move objects around in your photos, resize them, or even erase them entirely. Samsung's AI will then fill in the gaps as if the object was never there. It's crazy how well this works in most cases. Say you take a photo and someone is standing too close to the edge. Just drag them more into the frame and the AI fills in the missing background. Or if you take a picture in a crowded area but want it to look empty, just erase the people. And Samsung's AI removes them while keeping the background intact. Now, while this is undeniably cool, it's also something we've already seen from Google's Magic Editor. Samsung's version feels smoother in some ways, but it's not necessarily groundbreaking. It's still a powerful tool though, and one that will get a lot of use. Performance and battery life. So what about performance? Well, the Galaxy S25 Ultra is running Samsung's custom-tuned Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 chip, which is an absolute beast. It's faster, more efficient, and it runs cooler than last year's chip. Benchmarks show that it outperforms the iPhone 15 Pro Max in certain tasks, which is a huge deal. But real-world performance is what matters most, and in my testing, this phone flies. Apps open instantly, multitasking is smoother than ever, and gaming performance is top tier. Samsung's vapor chamber cooling system has also been upgraded, meaning that even during heavy gaming or 4K video recording, the phone stays much cooler than before. Battery life is another win. The S25 Ultra packs a 5,200 mAh battery, a slight bump from last year. Combined with the new, more efficient chip and Samsung's AI-powered battery optimization, this phone can easily last a full day and then some. Even with heavy use, I was consistently getting over 7 hours of screen on time. And yes, it still supports 45W fast charging, so you can get from 0 to 65% in just 30 minutes. Camera upgrades. Now let's talk cameras. Because Samsung has made some bold changes here, the S25 Ultra still has a 200MP main sensor. But the big news is that they've ditched the 10x periscope zoom lens. Instead, they've gone with a new 5x50MP sensor, which they claim delivers better image quality overall. At first, I was skeptical. The loss of a dedicated 10x zoom lens felt like a step backward. But after testing it, I kind of get what Samsung is doing. This new 5x sensor has a much higher resolution, meaning it can crop in digitally to give you a near lossless 10x zoom. And in my testing, image quality at 10x is actually sharper than on last year's phone. Low light photography has also seen a boost, thanks to better image processing and improved AI noise reduction. The S25 Ultra is producing some of the best night shots I've ever seen from a smartphone. Sharper details, better dynamic range, and more natural colors. Final thoughts. So, where does this leave us? The Galaxy S25 Ultra isn't just an iterative update. It's a statement. It's Samsung refining its design, pushing AI forward, and delivering top-tier performance in cameras. Some changes might be controversial, like the zoom lens swap, but overall, this feels like a proper next-gen phone. If you're coming from an S24 Ultra, the upgrades might not be enough to justify switching. But if you're on an older device or just want the best that Samsung has to offer, this is shaping up to be the phone to beat in 2025. Would you pick the S25 Ultra over an iPhone? Let me know in the comments.